great, and
Well,
then you go in and everything's trivial.
this is how it used to be in Diablo, is that you would just get the mechanics in Diablo were so broken and unfair. The solution was to never build health, and you would get one shot, but you could one shot the mobs.
Yeah,
That's the way it used to be. And so like, yeah, I was like really curious to see how this game would play. And I think this is something that a lot of people, especially like WoW players, Final Fantasy players here in the West, a lot of people, they were kind of put off by the isometric style.
Yeah,
because they'd not played a game like this. It's like how can an MMO have an isometric style? Because they think of this and they look at like a mobile game and they think it's kind of the same thing. But I've honestly, after playing the game, I feel like it's been just fine.
the mechanics in the Abyss dungeons that we have right now are so fun too. Like how did you not know it was red? Like it was obviously red. Why'd you click on the white one? Like stuff like that is actually funny, and I enjoy doing them, and I don't mind wiping, which I think is pretty obvious from me freaking out over the years of World of Warcraft. That's not how I felt when I played that game, and it's really refreshing that even wiping can be fun at times in this game.
Yeah. Usually the mechanics are pretty fair. I would say usually you die to something, you're like, oh, okay, well, that wasn't complete bullshit. I know what I did wrong, what I could have done to correct course. It actually goes back to a completely different topic where people it's a fairly contentious point where people always bring up, oh, I wish Lost Ark had like a DPS meter so I can know if I was actually doing better or not from pull to pull. And like, I think if you play this game for a few weeks and you're rating regularly, sorry, I was just looking at the clip.
Man, don't do that.
You could tell if you're improving from one pull to the next, even without empirical data from a DPS meter. You feel like you're playing better. You feel like you played on top of your game. You're not focused on a DPS meter. You're more focused on what the boss is doing and how well you're positioning and how well your damage uptime is. So I know that there's a lot of people who like having that data, that hard data, so that they can know an exact number. But you could still tell if you're improving even without one.
I would say so, yeah.
It feels so good. You're so fired, Becky. It feels so good though, getting tripods and things like that, and you instantly see like your crits just going up in value and things like that. Like you do feel that feedback loop, which is really nice. But you were actually saying that a lot of the really intelligent sorceresses in some of the hardest content will even do things like play reflux because all of the different engravings have value at time.
You really want this, don't you?
Yeah, please help me out with it.
Okay. So I've been frogging the current hardest encounter, Vicus. You guys might have remembered the booba lady from Anika.
Yes.
And I'm playing with my friend James, and he's playing as an artist class, which is the new support class.
Yeah.
And that class has really good buff uptime. And so because it has really good buff uptime, and so does Paladin, I've been playing Reflux. I switched off of Igniter to Reflux because it meshes well better with those supports. But sometimes they put me in the party with the Bard and the Gun Lancer, and in those cases, I have no choice but to play Igniter because Igniter works better with the burst buff from a Bard. So I've been playing both, and both have their merits. So on average, usually Igniter does end up stronger. Reflux is still a fine choice, and I've been enjoying Reflux. I don't know if I would enjoy Reflux that much in the moment in the West, but when you get to the later gearing in Tier 3, for example, there's 8 different high-level sets to pick from, and they're very varied in what they do. Some classes they can't even agree on which is the best set for their class. So you have like 3 different sets in the leaderboards from different players. It's much better than what it is currently because right now you only have like one set. It's very homogenized. So later on, it enables a lot of builds to really become a lot more interesting, a lot more viable, and a lot more powerful compared to where they are at currently. And those sets will be available probably next month, if I had to guess. It comes that quickly. It comes probably with the first.
So that's going to give people like more build variety, more things that they can do, etc.
Yeah.
About that, I kind of assumed that everything was going to be kind of cookie cutters. Like if you played Igniter, you know, you wanted this damage and this CDR
Yeah.
tripod, and you were going for this set of gear. That's really cool to hear.
Yeah, there's a little bit of variety. I mean, like Reflux, for example, you've been playing it, Rich. You're playing a version of Reflux. I'm not sure where you got your build from in general, because I wasn't watching at the time when you built your character. But like later on with one of the sets, you can play a piano version of the build where you're just spamming skills nonstop, really fast skills, really repeatedly, almost with no cooldown. So like,
do you think my build's bad?
Did you get it from Maxroll?
No, I came up with it myself.
It's okay.
I got it from Maxroll.
Okay, it's good then.
Okay.
I wrote that.
Yeah, oh my god! I literally
Did you really?
Yeah,
Oh wow!
No, I switched out Squall because I wasn't really using it that much. So I switched out Squall for Inferno. But which
That's
is
fine.
probably Peg. Yeah.
No. Like when it comes to countering, like countering is super fun in Lost Ark. It's a relatively new system.
Does countering matter more in T3? Because like why does it matter more in T3?
Because in some cases, if you don't counter the boss, it creates either a raid wipe or a massive damage AoE.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So like it's that's kind of what I semi expected, but I just didn't really know. So like everybody's just got to be ready for that whenever it happens. Like
right now a lot of people don't counter, but people get better at it. So it's not something.
Okay.
And like you never have to worry that countering is solely your responsibility, because like say you're a back attack class, like Asmon, you're always trying to reposition behind a boss. You're not always going to be able to move to the front of the boss if it starts a counterable pattern. That's someone else's responsibility that's on the other side. But if the boss happens to be turning towards you, then, you know, it's not really an issue. You just quickly do it, and then you get your free damage uptime. So I've had a lot of people ask, how do you counter? And you just kind of always try to put yourself in a position where you can counter if possible. And if you can't, it's no big deal. Hopefully someone else takes care of it for you.
I'm really excited to see what the scene, like how it actually forms. Do you think it's going to end up like playing out a lot similar to the other regions, or do you think with what you've seen from players who are just jumping into the game now, do you think it's going to go in a different direction?
Well, Japan is kind of dead because Japan was a guinea pig for the West. They had like the initial systems of tier 2, and it just didn't kind of work out. So NA and EU and South America have like the better version on their launch. Here, I'll give you an idea.
Crazy. Wow.
When Japan launched, their endgame content was Shoeshire.
Oh my god.
Oh wow. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that being a problem.
Yep. And the gold costs on upgrades were way higher, and they had almost no gold generation. So the people thought that that's where to make gold. And I saw posts on the Japanese forums that they were like, "Oh, I can only make 20 gold a day from doing Tuki Island. How am I supposed to afford upgrades and stuff like that?" It was just really problematic all the way around. I think the West has a really good edge because it has the most updated version of the game. There are things that are in the West that aren't even in Korea currently.
Really? Like what?
Really?
Yeah. So an example of that is the second Abyssal dungeon in T3. In Korea, its entry level is 1355, and it gives a purple set of gear. But in the West, it's 1370, and it gives a legendary set of gear, and it's the next set of gear. And so progression in general is a lot smoother in the West compared to other regions, which is very important because if people hit the hurdles too early, then they're more likely to lose interest in the game and like uninstall or something like that.
And you think that's probably why they're nerfing Guardian raids and the Abyssal raids too?
That's a big point, because again, as I mentioned before, most of the I think they provided data that only like less than 10% of people have cleared some of these raids, and like for you or me or people in chat, it's like that's ridiculous. They're not that hard. But if you put yourself in the shoes of like an actual newbie casual gamer, they can be very hard. I could see how you can get stuck in Hildebrand's palace for a few hours trying to aim the light beam or handle the stagger check and stuff like that.
We all saw that in Asmon's stream. I can imagine it too.
Hey, and so I had to do it myself, right? It was fine.
Yeah, so I think when they do the nerfs on those contents, I would hope that they would find fair ways to do it. Like for example, with Veritas, maybe lower the stagger check when someone gets grabbed a little bit, or Nakrasana lowering the weak point check a little bit on the tail. the fight remains difficult, but hopefully it encourages players to actually know to break the tail and stuff like that. That's what I'm looking for with these nerfs.
Yeah, once you get to tier 3, the Guardian raids are way easier.
Yeah.
They're easier in tier 3?
Kind of, yeah, because their HP isn't as high. They weren't buffed. When they buffed the HP of the Guardian raids, they only buffed levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. Level 5 was untouched altogether.
You have a bunch of idiot whales who have literally been swiping every time they wiped, still getting them down in 5 minutes, is my experience with NMP. You know, like we went in, we got it down the first try. We were on our way. So it seems a lot easier.
Yeah. I mean, I looked through. I looked through these changes.
So wait, where do you have everybody parked? Like, do you have everybody parked at like tier 2, just selling leap stones all day, or like?
Yeah, I have 5 alts in tier 2 currently. They just sell leap stones and guardian stones, and people buy them because they're trying to rush to tier 3. Maybe in a few weeks from now, I'll push them all to tier 3, and then just repeat the trend until prices go down. And then if I ever need to make a push to like 14, 15, you know, hopefully by then prices are cheaper, and I can just buy everything up and then just go from there.
You're so cool. Is it worth being at 1370 yet at all?
No. I mean, you'll progress your gear, but you know, it's a missed opportunity to make gold. But you know, I don't ever advise that people try to min-max the fun out of a game like that. At the end of the day, games are meant for enjoyment. And what I do with all of my alts is I gear all of them up. I put gems on them. I'll buy accessories for them. I'll make sure that they're fun to play. Because if I'm playing that many characters at that time, it's like a second job. So I have to actually enjoy playing them.
That's why I haven't done alts.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who will make an alt and they'll just leave them like in the shoddiest state with no gear, no gems, no engravings, and it's just misery playing.
I actually did. I tried to do that with my gunslinger. Is that what the class is called? I forget what it's even called. My character's name's Amaranth. I didn't really put too much on her and actually using that character because she had no engravings. Everything was just messed up, and I didn't even like really build her the right way. So she wasn't even farming me leap stones because it was just a miserable experience. And then the second that I started building out some of my alts, I was like, wait, I actually have fun each day doing my tier 1 characters. That's a dated picture, by the way. That doesn't show how high my gear score really is. So I'm going to hit up Ninja and I'm going to sue you for defamation, Peckies.
Okay.
You plan on making alts, Asmon, at any point?
Yeah, I'll probably make a few more berserkers.
You're not interested in something like a destroyer or something like that later on down the line?
I feel like a destroyer is basically a berserker with a shorter sword. I mean, isn't that about right? I mean, or is it really that much different?
I feel like artillery.
I feel like berserker is just the best class in the game. Like, I'm gonna be honest.
Berserker has an interesting reputation in Korea. In Korea,
so people think they're stupid, huh?
No. Well, there's 2 types of berserkers because it's a really popular class with older people and whales as well. And so a lot of whales there's a lot of berserker whales. And so they have this interesting reputation where sometimes they're a little bit more on the unskilled side and maybe that's floor POV kind of thing. But then on the other hand, there is like a small subsect of berserkers that are known as like absolute giga chads that play perfectly and are soloing content that shouldn't even be soloed in the first place. Unfortunately, the latter makes up about 1% of berserker players. But you know,
that's on the Korean servers, right? Like there are no Giga Chat servers on the new servers over here, right?
That sounds like a shot at Asmon right now.
You'll see. You know, like Rich, whenever I get up to these Guardian raids, I'm gonna solo all of them. You know what we should do, Rich? We should have a thing where we watch you solo some of the fights. I want to see that. I want to see you solo.
I do it all the time. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
Look, man. Look. I am MVP all the time when I do my Abyss. I do get carried occasionally. I would say majority of the day I get carried. But every
Yeah.
now and then I go big on my reflex sorceress, and everybody makes fun of me for not being igniter.
Can you would know this? Can you pay money to get a guardian clear, or do you actually have to?
It's really popular in Korea to get on the bus.
Yeah, people
What?
do that. It's called
Wait,
it's called
what?
busing. Yeah, not to be confused with bussy, but busing is you know
I got confused too.
people get on the bus, and then the bus driver, who's the person that's carrying them,
Uh-huh.
you know, they're like, okay, you know, you paid your fare, now I'll bus you to the destination. And it is a common practice. Usually the people who buy those are people who have alts that they just didn't gear up, that they don't want to play. They just get on the bus, they get their materials, and usually that equates out to be a little bit more than what the bus fare was. It even exists in raid content as well, but
Really?
yeah. But the thing is, from the Second Legion General onwards, they made a very, very, very proactive approach to putting in mechanics specifically to stop that in the raids. They can still technically be carried, but oh god, they are very annoying to carry in comparison to anything before them.
It's kind of like RNG to carry somebody, like to depend on like who the mechanics go on, kind of.
At times, like for example, in again that one video, how difficult is raiding in Lost Ark, that first fight on phase 5 requires all 8 players to survive all the way through 75% of the fight. You can't lay dead, you'll cause a raid wipe if you're dead at any point before that. So that's like one example, and a lot of these fights in later on, they're littered with mechanics that stop you from carrying people.
That's crazy. So like actually you can't have, well, do people do like account sharing stuff and everything like that in Korea?
It's obviously not allowed, but such things as piloting services exist. They exist in every game. Yeah.
I just didn't know like how popular that was at all. That's pretty incredible. Like I'm kind of surprised to see, like, so they designed the fights intentionally to prevent people from like just bringing in 1 or 2 people as just straight up dead weight.
Yeah, but it's also contentious because a lot of these mechanics, some people find them to be very overbearing, where it's like if one person makes a mistake, it kills everybody.
Right.
And a lot of people felt like, especially some of the newer raids, they felt like there were too many of those, and it just made it too frustrating to progress forward.
Yeah, I know we had that happen with like the Hildebrand's Palace. Like if you have one person dead and then, you know, somebody gets a meteor, you've only got 2 of the light sources and you can't break it. So it's just, it's over, right? And unless you like go to the side or something like that to avoid it. So yeah, I mean, it can be frustrating. Like Final Fantasy has a lot of features like that too, where like one player makes a mistake, you know, they walk towards a debuff or something like that, and like just everybody's health immediately goes down to 0, and you know, you're back at start again. So yeah, I'm pretty familiar with that too, and like even WoW has features like that too.
Yeah, I also wanted to take a moment to actually, I guess, apologize to the community for making that video in the first place. I feel like it was very misrepresentative of the typical raiding experience, and I do feel really bad about it because I did get a lot of comments on that video saying, you know, if this is what raiding is like, then I'm out.
Yeah.
And what I failed to mention was that all of these raids, they have multiple difficulty levels for every type of player. And I really wanted to press that point because it is important that every player is attended to in this MMO. You don't want to feel like in order to get anywhere, you have to do this anxiety-inducing raid to get to move forward.
I will say though, I watched it and I was like, this looks so cool. Like, I really want to try this game. So I'm sure that there are definitely a lot of people who ended up getting attracted to the challenging content.
Right. I think it did inspire a lot of people to get excited for the fact that, yeah, Lost Ark raids they're at a high level as well. It was just for the people that were kind of turned off by it that I feel like if I had provided more information, maybe they wouldn't have been so turned off at the idea of high rating.
What about like, okay, so like obviously the Belshazzar fight was fucking ridiculous, but like the Valton fight, it didn't really seem like it was like really like, I mean, yeah, it seemed hard, yeah, for sure, but it didn't seem ridiculous like that did.
Yeah. I mean, the mechanics definitely grew from raid to raid to raid.
Yeah.
Vulcan is still an excellent encounter, though. It's actually my favorite encounter of all of the Legion generals.
Really? Okay.
Because it perfectly encapsulates the character itself and like the tension of like fighting on top of a tall tower and the boss like smacks you off the edge and you just like die instantly and whatnot. It's very, very nerve-wracking when you go through it yourself, and it does a great job of that.
That's cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
And I just don't want people to feel like they have to be caught in this rat race, that they have to enter and clear the content on day one, week one. For example, with Argos, I don't actually plan on entering it day one because
Really?
I'm waiting for the I mean, I don't think anything that important comes from it, honestly. So I'm just waiting for materials to keep going down and just keep stockpiling gold.
So you're playing the long game. You're just trying to make as much money as possible.
Yeah, I mean, all those materials.
You're literally farming for me.
They're guaranteed to drop later. There's no question about it. So making gold now means that later on I'll have an easier ride.
I'm like straight at it. Like I'm just buying materials for you all day, man.
Yep.
It's a tough life.
Off of whales.
Many of those stupid idiots who just really thought it was cool to be 1370 early. But yeah, no, it is really great to hear your take though on, play the game the way you want to. If you want to rush. If you want to stockpile materials and sell them. If you want to focus on some of your alts, do it. One of the questions that I had though, when you're trying to actually get into a static or like trying to get into groups for some of these the harder pieces of content that are going to be coming out, what do people usually assess, right? Because is it just looking at things like gear score? Are they like checking your engravings, like checking your build? Like how does that process usually work on the other servers?
It's a bit of a pain because this kind of ties into the whole concept of gatekeeping, like not letting someone into a party because they don't live up to what your expectations are. In other servers, they'll check your engravings. In the most extreme cases, they'll check things like your cars, they'll check your gems, they'll check your roster level, because like if your roster level is low, that could be an indication that you're brand new to the game. It's not like a guaranteed parameter of skill, but it's just like one thing. Because here's the thing: if you're looking for random people to join your party, you have no idea how skilled they actually are. And if you accept them into your party, you don't know if they'll in your party or not. And so people do all these crazy gatekeeping methods, which I really hope is not as pervasive in the West. Because I think in Korea, what we do in the party finder is we have 3 different labels that we put for our parties and the party titles. There's skilled parties, there's try parties or practice parties, and there's something loosely translated as half-baked parties, where you kind of know the mechanics up to a certain point. And so people will usually put one of these 3 tags in the title of their party.
Yeah.
And if someone applies to that party, you have it in good faith that they are that level. I don't think something like that will be established here anytime soon. If you played FF14, by the way, this is very similar to the tags in FF14.
Yeah,
there's this title for the Legion General Vulcan. If you clear him on Hell mode, both bosses back to back with no party deaths in the entire raid and no retries, you get a really cool title called Beast Store that has an icon next to it. And there's special titles that you can basically show off. When I wear that title, I never have issues finding parties. They look at it and they're like, okay, he probably knows what he's doing.
Yeah, they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. I want to ask both of you guys a question. How do you guys feel about raids where you just wipe over and over? Do you think it's fun to just struggle until you eventually overcome a challenge?
It depends. Recently I had a very an experience with this a couple of days ago, and it was not fun at all. So you have a circle, right? And there's an inside and an outside of the circle. Mm-hmm. So you want to use the portal whenever you're on the outside of the circle to get to the inside of the circle.
Yeah, what's the portal look like?
It's a looks like a portal.
Like a mage portal?
No. Like a fucking portal. Like a teleport portal.
A game portal?
It's like a...
Like Portal 2?
No. It's like a fucking
Dude, what a weird word portal is. Like, just say it, portal. It just loses all
you gotta
meaning.
say turtle, like just,
Portal.
I'll just say it, right? Like raiding in WoW fucking sucks dick because I have to sit there and wait for people to run back, for them to AFK. There's like all of these like extra things that you have to do that don't involve pulling the boss. But like for Lost Ark and for Final Fantasy, I'm more like resilient to wiping in terms of frustration because I know that like we're just going to go right back and try it over again. To me, like I feel like going in and learning a fight at the very beginning with people that have like the same mindset as you, especially if it's like brand new content that nobody's seen before, is actually some of the most fun that you can have in a video game. Like my best memory was doing this in World of Warcraft the day that Ulduar came out. And like we were in Ulduar for like 17 hours that day, but we finished the whole raid the first day, and like nobody really knew a lot about it. Like we just figured everything else out like as it came, and it was really, really fun.
Last time I played World of Warcraft was 2007. I played on Stormreaver. And I mostly have only good memories of the game from back then. So I don't know.
In 2007.
From 2007 to 2022, yeah. I don't really know what happened during that time. Like my worst memory of World of Warcraft was doing Scarlet Monastery as a Tauren warrior, and then the Ravager axe drops, and then I roll need on it, and then a Hunter rolls need on it and beats me, and then I cried.
I was about to say a fucking Hunter.
Yeah, always was.
Yeah,
that's literally my worst memory about the game. But like, it's sometimes some of the stories I hear from like you and like Stoops and whatnot. It's like, yeah, it sounds like pulling teeth playing the game at times.
The was game 2007 Wrath?
No, Wrath came out at late 2008. Okay. 2007 was Burning Crusade.
Still BC. Okay.
Yeah,
it's hard. Lost Ark is extremely reactive. You need to be able to react on the fly.
Those counters are fucking fast.
Yeah. So reacting fast is really important. So I think streamers naturally should be pretty good at it. But you know, they all do it in different ways, and I hope that people don't. I hope that they don't err towards tribalism towards much. I don't like it when people rag on other games. Yeah, unfairly, that is.
Final Fantasy, the tribalism was some of the most insane shit I've ever seen in my entire life. Like that was like actual tribalism, and I think a lot of that was because the community had a feeling like we needed to kill WoW, and then they just ended up doing it themselves. So that I feel like the tribalism isn't as necessary anymore, and I haven't felt it as much with Lost Ark. Like,
no, it's pretty bad in Lost Ark too.
Is it still? Because I watched Final Fantasy videos like in the middle of playing Lost Ark, and like there were people being like, "Oh, I would try this out. Like, I haven't tried this game," and just like talking about it, and I was like, "This is crazy. Like, I've never seen peace like this."
And so tribalism in Lost Ark definitely exists greatly too. It's almost cult-like at times.
Really?
Yeah. Where like you can't speak ill of a game, but like Lost Ark isn't a perfect game. Let's be real. There are downsides to the game that you can pick out, but like no game is perfect, and it's
what would you like to see them improve? Like after playing for so long, like what would you like to see improve?
I think a lot of the things that I wanted to see improve, the game has been moving in that direction, such as limiting alt play a little bit. For example, like you had people in Korea playing like 12 to 18 alts, and they would only raid log. That's it. They would just do the raids on each of these characters. They would do nothing else. They would just raid, because raids earn raw gold. For example, Vulcan, when you clear it on hard mode, it gives 4,500 raw gold. Or Belshazzar on hard mode, she gives 9,500 gold just for clearing it. And so people, that's a huge source of the gold. It's just raiding on these like characters. And what they did was that they limited the amount of characters that could earn gold on a week-by-week basis to just 6 characters, which is actually active in the West today. But most people, actually almost all people, don't really feel that ramification because most people don't have more than 6 characters.
That's why I'm making another account.
Oh my god.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Kidding.
I don't know on how they choose to play the game. If you want to do that, fine. I think that's a bit sweaty for my taste, but if you like the game and you enjoy it, by all means, do it.
I am knowing that there's like so much content. Like this is one thing that I felt like that I've really enjoyed about Lost Ark, and like especially like even compared to a lot of other games, one thing I've really liked about it is that the end game has like different end games. Like you move from one end game to another end game to another end game. And like that to me is like so much more fulfilling than just doing a harder difficulty. It's like you're going and you're fighting a new boss. Like that to me, that's just so cool.
Every alt has its own end game ecosystem that it's working with. So like that's why it's not a great mentality to treat an alt and say that it's an alt. It's better just to think of it as a lower level main, because if you play it and you enjoy it, that's why I usually encourage people to try different classes just to mix things up. But if you make the same class, it's not really a big deal. Just you can enjoy playing an alt is what I'm trying to say. Don't make it into a chore.
Getting on and playing the Bard compared to the Sorceress was so much fun. And then the Shadow Hunter, completely different game. It actually makes me want to play the game more. What'd you say?
You have a Bard?
1325 Bard, yeah.
Playing a support right now is a little rough. Because like your value as a support scales directly to the skill of your allies. And like later on, when the average skill level of players goes up a little bit, playing a support is really fun, because like that every time you're buffing them, they're gonna make use of that. Though right now, playing a support in like T1 and T2 is like trying to run a daycare.
Yeah, the feeling of playing a support though in this game, and you are like, I already knew the timings for like a lot of the mechanics because I had done it on Sorceress, and being like, oh, this is a really good time to get like a giant shield out, right? Like I'm gonna wait for that timing, and I know the boss is gonna be super easy to hit here. So I build up 3. Is it called 3 bars? So I build up 3 bards so I can actually get the buff out. That feeling of mastery, even this early in the game, was super satisfying. And I screwed up plenty of times, but it's really cool to see how different Bard feels compared to Sorceress, where I'm just sitting there like punishing strike, and just like making sure I hit him.
It's good that you're a Bard. You can support Asmon when he gets to T3.
That's why I made it, and I literally had it in tier 1 waiting for him. And then he invited Crystal instead of me, and I was just like, "What the heck, dude?" And then I was like, "Screw this shit," and I just went to tier 3 with it. I am weak.
I am actually a huge whale in Korea. You know that, right?
Really? How much have you spent?
Over the past few years, it's like probably around 18K.
Holy shit!
Yes.
So how far did that get you?
Not far.
So you did that in 3 years. I'm doing this wrong, man.
God damn.
I already spent 8K.
Wow. What? I mean, the thing is, like,
I thought it was more.
The amount that you can spend in a tier, what you spend in a tier, it devalues extremely hard as soon as a new tier comes out. Because, like, okay, let's hypothetically say that Rich spends money and raises a character hypothetically to 1370, and he spends a hypothetical $8,000, right?
Okay. Maybe
in like a month or 2 from now, you'll be able to do that without any issues for free, with no problems.
Okay, so it's like, it's really that I didn't know it was that fast.
I'll say that whaling content, viewers love watching that.
Oh, they actually
really?
Viewers
do they love it or they love to hate it?
They love watching streamers burn money.
Yeah, and they like watching you miss. Like
they're never going to be stupid enough to do it themselves.
And also, I think it's reassuring to them too. Like when you see like a person miss over and over again.
Yeah,
like, I think people find it really fun. Like it is funny. Like me and NMP were whaling at the same time, and the price of leap stones was just jumping up. And we were both streaming it, and people were going back and forth like, he's going to get it before you. And we would each be trying to buy like 200 leap stones.
Outspend each other?
Yeah, and everybody was cracking up because people were starting to put their leap stones up for more gold. And like one leap stone.
Because they knew that it was, it was in season.
It was like one leap stone at tier 2 was 350 gold a pop by the end of his whale. It was ridiculous, but it was funny, and it was a time and place that people will remember forever. And you know what? That's priceless.
Yeah, I'm glad that you were able to do that for them, Rich. It really made their experience so much better.
They do so much for me,
And they
too.
got gold out of it,
You
so.
know.
But,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're giving them money too.
What is your reason to spend when you're whaling in Korea? Is it like, oh, I'm really close to a breakpoint? Yeah, go ahead.
The first reason, very good stream content. The second reason why is because there's an unofficial leaderboard for character power, and I'm at rank 2, so for my server, and I just kind of I'm stuck in a pigeonhole. I feel constantly like I should be up there.
Oh, okay. So you just keep going. Okay,
it's so bad, dude. You could at the level of gearing I'm at, you could literally spend thousands of dollars and end up with like a 0.4% damage increase. It's the biggest waste of money. I can't even begin to bear it. And
what is the percent chance of success when you're at that level?
At best, 1.5%.
What? So is that with like shards and stuff like that?
That's what the honing stuff. You'd be looking at 1.5% odds and just a ridiculous amount of materials for a 0.4% increase in damage.
What the heck? So
that's why
yeah,
the highest level of content only requires plus 17 in Korea, which is like, I mean, at that point you're dealing with like 10 to 15% odds, which, I mean, you're dealing with that now in the West. That's pretty easy. Yeah. That's why they don't ask for you to go higher than that, because at that point the costs become ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
Holy heck! So I feel like a lot of the big power spikes are what, from gems, tripods.
Yes, and those you can accomplish with like just playing the game. The biggest power spikes in Lost Ark come from things like your engravings, your gems, things like the max level gems. They're stupidly expensive, but you never need that. Like, your goal will be like level 7 gems and stuff like that. Cards, you just work on gradually. Getting the 7% card set doesn't take terribly long. I mean, Rich, you almost have it.
Yeah, I almost have it.
And things like skill points in your collectibles as well, they all factor. I would say that item level is probably the least contributing factor to character growth and strength. And it's more of just like well, you've reached this level, so you can enter this content kind of thing.
Like, so I've been making like I would say on average now, like maybe 800 gold a day from tripod selling.
Oh, you're doing that. That's actually a pretty good method of making gold right now if you're at that level.
You know why I knew how to do it? Your YouTube video. So guys, definitely make sure that you're watching Saint's YouTube videos. At the very end, you said, so you get the thingy, and then the thingy's going to give you this on the thingy, and then you have that thingy, and then you can sell the thingy. And I was like,
my editor was going to put that.
I was dying laughing, man. I was actually dying laughing. But yeah, no, your video on tripods made me understand the system a lot. So I've gotten a few good tripods, threw them in the library, and then put them up on the market and sold them. And I've gotten like, I actually logged into the game and I had 800 gold waiting there for me today. And it's happened.
So if you're ever worried if your class is good or not, I would say that the balance in Lost Ark is surprisingly very good for a game with 21, 22 classes. Most classes are within a margin of 5 to 10% to each other, which sounds like a lot in a game.
I guess so. There's a lot of like every attack in a lot of ways is like a skill shot in Lost Ark. So like there's
Is that an Allcraft video about your part? It's a 3-hour. I'm so sorry, dude. I didn't think that Allcraft was gonna last 3 hours. That was a really, really long episode. When I was talking with Rich and Asmin, I thought we were only talking for like an hour and a half tops. I didn't realize that the entire thing ended up being 3 hours.